How's it going, everyone? So today I'm going to show you how you can create a simple bouncing ball animation using Blender. So to begin, open up Blender. I'm also using a Wacom tablet, so you can actually follow along with the mouse, but this actually helps. So the first thing we'll do is I'm not going to sacrifice the cube today, so I'll just leave the cube alone and just go to File, click on New, and we'll just click on 2D animation. Now, you can actually see I have a 2D illustration section right there, but we're not going to be using that one. And by default, this is super bright on my eyes, so I'll just click on the world properties, right? Is that the world properties? Yeah, it's the world properties, so I'll just click on this color, and I'll just dial this down a little bit, and I'll also change this into a nice, maybe a warm template, anyone that's super fine. So the next thing we'll do is to jump into our object data properties, which looks like this coil of wire. I think it's supposed to represent nodes. So let's just click into that. Now we can actually see we have our lines and fills. What Blender does is it actually created two layers for us. So we have a lines layer and we have a fills layer right here, just by default, because we're using a default stroke. It has a default stroke for us. So what we can do is to go over to the fills layer, just double click on that and then change that to ground. And now the thing is, it's very important to have a path where your objects are going to be residing when you want to animate. For instance, if we want to animate a bouncing ball, we would need to have a ground where the ball is going to impact and fall. It just adds that realism to it. So I'm going to have that ground, and I'm going to use that ground as a guide. I'll also create a vertical guide for the ball. So here, I'll just say object, because this is or rather I'll call this the subject, because this is what we want to be animating. So for the ground, I'll use the default pencil. It's automatically on the default pencil, and I'll just create a nice ground sketch like so. So this is going to be my ground, like so. This is my ground level. And I can just clean that up a little bit, or if I want, I could leave it rough, but that's just going to be where the ground is. So I'll switch back to the pencil, and I'll just drag this to just show some signs of perspective. And then also vertically, I'll just like to draw a vertical line, because I'm going to be drawing the frames of each of these balls. So this is going to be our end, and let's say we're starting from here. So we're going to be dropping the ball from here. And again, these are just guides. We're not going to be animating anything on this guide. So what we could do is to lock this layer and then jump to the subject layer. So it's on the subject layer we're going to start drawing our balls for each frame. So what I'll do to the subject is just go over here, and since this is our start, let's just draw a nice circle. It doesn't have to be perfect, just an imperfect circle, which is perfectly okay. So the next thing you can do is you can either click on the bottom here on the timeline and switch to the number you want, or I'll just use my arrow keys and press right, and I'm actually on the second frame now. So on the second frame, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw these balls close to each other for like 6 frames, really close to each other. It means the ball has reached the maximum height and it's lost all that kinetic energy, and it's now going to start falling down faster. So the rule of thumb is the closer the objects are together in your frames, the closer your frames are together, it means your animation is going to be slow at that point. And then once you have your frames faster apart, it's going to be very fast. And to do that, I'll just go back to the ground like so and switch back to 1. I'll just do 1, 2, and switch that back to 1, and I'll just draw it like this. So this, oops, I locked that layer. So this is going to be the timing, right? So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, and 6. They're really close to each other. You can actually see that spacing. But then I have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? These are a bit spaced and further apart. But once it goes down, I'll just want to have some of those keyframes close to each other as well. So basically it means this is easing out and this is also easing in, right? So ease in, ease out, like so. So let's get back to our subject, and I believe we just have one frame. So I'll click the right arrow. You can actually see at the bottom and I switch to frame 2, and I'm just going to try and draw this slightly close to this object, like so. So each time you draw a new frame, the other frame is going to be ghosted. So basically it means you have the cells, and what's the name you call that? There's a name that's it's been called onion skinning. So good. So you can actually see your previous layer, but it's grayed out. So you can actually move between the arrow keys. There's no nice circle, but I'll just leave it at that. So at frame 3, I'll just draw another one that's quite close to this. At frame 4, I'll just keep doing that, and I'm clicking the arrow keys at frame 5 and at frame 6. So these are quite close to each other. So for frame 7, and what you can do is at the bottom here, once you're over this, you can use your middle mouse scroll, and you can just scroll up to actually expand that. You can just widen this so you can easily see your keyframes. This helps you easily kind of like select them, and you can just see them like that. So I'm using the middle mouse button to do that. Basically, I'm just scrolling with this guy. So here, alright, so we were at frame 6. So let's go to 7. So with 7 now, I'll just push this down a little bit. So go to 8. I'll just push that down 2. Go to 9. Push that down. Go to 10. Push that down. So from 10 right now, I'll just begin to. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. 10. So at frame 11, it has impacted the floor. So at 11, we have impacted the floor. I'll just switch this over to 12, and I think I'm being interrupted by my layer right here. Or I could just bring this back so I can see the other keyframes. So at 11, we had actually touched the surface of the floor. So this is our end. So what happens to the ball when it touches the floor? It begins to compress a little bit because it has all that energy and it's falling down. So at 12, what I'm going to do is just squish this like so. And it doesn't really squish like that, but I'll just squish this again and add a little more squishiness like so. So at 14, we've actually had the ball hit the ground and it's like squishing. And so at 15, now the ball is trying to get back up. So it's going to begin to get its shape back. So we want it to go back up again. So at 14, we have our maximum squish. At 15, now we're squishing back up. Let's say 16. And it's going to begin to squish back up vertically. At 17, we're getting our big space back. We begin to get our volume back. At 18, it's starting to get to its normal shape. And then at 19, we'll just add its closer. So I'll just keep this frame 20. And my drawing is terrible drawing. So at 21, so we'll begin to move, and remember our spacing right here. 22, 23. So now let's see at 24. Let's just try and bring that back up, but slightly closer. So I actually missed my starting point. So I'll just keep doing that again and just leave this right here. Yeah, I think I can leave it right here. So what we can do is just drag this back like so. So you can see our keyframes. So I actually have, let's see, 27 frames. So I'll just click the end point here and just say 28. So this is just going to put a limit to the number of frames we have for our animation. So next, what I'll do is just click on this back arrow and let's just press play or the space bar. So we can actually see it's holding up a bit. When it falls down, it eases in and then eases in and eases out like so. So that's a quick and fun way to actually animate the ball. Now what we can actually do from here is to add the fill. We can turn on the fill. So if we jump back here, so we are actually on the subject layer. If we click on the materials, we actually have a stroke. So if we click on that, we won't see anything because this is the basically this is the lead or the lead we're using to create our object. So for the fill, if we add a fill, we can actually see this horrible thing we've done here. So what we could do is to just drag down the opacity of that fill. So it's actually super, it's horrible, I know. So I think it would be best to create a specific material for this, but let's just see, we could just color this out. So I could color this blue, and then for the alpha, I'll just set it to 0.6. So that's 60%. Let's try the alpha. Let's set the alpha to, let's say 0.4. Let's do 0.4 for the alpha. And still, if we play that, we will still have our bouncing magic blue ball going around. So you can actually use the different material, especially for this guy, so we wouldn't have this material colored as well. So yeah, basically that's how you can animate a nice, basic bouncing ball. Now obviously if you wanted this to be a bit faster, you'll just increase your spacing. So hopefully this helps, and this gives you an idea of how you can start creating your own animations using Blender. Basic stuff. Peace.